I'm Ed Kelly, editor of the Oklahoman. A great Oklahoman played a critical role in sending man to the moon. On the 40th anniversary of the most famous space flight of all, it's worth noting the influence of Senator Robert S. Kerr in making Apollo 11 happen. I first learned the story in 1989 on the 20th anniversary of the lunar flight when I was stationed in Washington, D.C. for the Oklahoman. Actually, that story began in 1961, right before President Kennedy made his famous speech that promised a touchdown on the moon before the end of the decade. At the time, Bob Kerr was the uncrowned king of the Senate, whose influence in making or breaking legislation was legendary. Kerr also headed the Aeronautical and Space Science Committee. Men who were close to Kerr at the time told me the story years later of a fateful meeting between Kerr, a small group of other senators, and Vice President Lyndon Johnson. Johnson made the pitch to go to space. But as a former senator himself, he knew the space program would never get off the ground without the Senate signing off. It was at that moment that Kerr became convinced of the worth of spending tax dollars for a race to space, in large part because of what he saw as the value to Oklahoma. The rest, as they say, is history. Kerr went quickly to work. He stumped hard behind the scenes and helped President Kennedy get $1.8 billion in authorization that year. Meantime, he appointed key Oklahomans to top positions to ensure passage of crucial legislation. The most notable ex-Okie was James Webb, an old friend from Kerr McGee in Oklahoma City. Webb was named administrator of NASA, the space agency. Kerr died on New Year's Day, 1963, some 6.5 years before that fateful trip to the moon. But his work in ensuring the American space program had the dollars needed to get it off the ground earned him a rightful place in our nation's ascension into space.
Let's see it.